Welcome to the Social Justice Forums. I'm your host, Kibin Alleyne, covering for Darren Jaime. We thank you for joining us. If you are asking the question, what is this show all about? We bring you a discussion providing a deeper understanding of the issues and inequities many communities face. From systemic inequalities to pressing social problems, our guests will provide multiple perspectives and insights to help us better understand and address these challenges. We invite you to stay connected with us as the Social Justice Forum starts now. Welcome back. With growing calls for systemic change, it's essential to explore innovative solutions that address the deep rooted issues within our laws enforcement system. The Center for Policing Equity is at the forefront of this movement. Their mission is to protect, empower, and support vulnerable communities, particularly Black and Brown communities, by redesigning public safety systems. Here now is the Senior Vice President of Justice Partnerships at the Center for Policing Equity, Eric Cumberbatch. Eric, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, can you elaborate on the mission of the Center for Policing Equity and how it aims to redesign public safety systems?
Sure, simply put, I would say our mission is really framed around Black liberation. At the forefront, we know that there's legacies of white supremacy across all systems that are built to protect and serve Black people. And for us, we have a keen focus on legislation and law enforcement, and how do we remove the harms that we see done to Black and Brown people on a daily basis through these structures that weren't built for us and weren't built by us. And we look at legislation as the tool for us to really break down barriers and silos. We seek to empower community members to be at the forefront of designing policy, and we look at policy as the tool to actually mold and shape legislation. We dive deep into science, ensuring that our policy is steeped in best practices, supported by evidence, and really driving towards what the data shows us, um, so that we can, really move towards real equity, genuine equity, through a public health lens.
Now, how does CPE approach the task of redesigning public safety systems to be less racist, less deadly, and less omnipresent?
Again, it's looking at what the data shows us and what the lived experience of people are actually telling us. What we know is that there's alternatives to law enforcement, and law enforcement has been the tool that's been given to Black and Brown people to solve very complex social service issues, mental health issues, economic issues, you name it, all of the social determinants of health. But the sole tool that's been given is law enforcement. So this isn't, rocket science or creating something that is so nuanced and brilliant. It's actually believing in the strength of people, believing in the strength of community, empowering and lifting up the solutions that we know actually work, and have been intentionally held back um, for a certain population, and that population being folks that look like me and you.
Now, what are some successful examples of redesigned public safety systems that CPE has been involved with?
So we've been major players across the entire terrain of looking at legislative policies that are backed by science, that reduce the footprint of law enforcement, really looking at traffic legislation to end low level stops. Why do we need people with a gun and a taser and a baton to when a pencil and paper is needed to write a traffic ticket? Why do we need armed personnel showing up to a person's home while they're enduring a mental health crisis? All of these things. So really looking at how do we go further upstream, but we've been really successful in the traffic space, ending low level stops, pushing legislation, whether that's in New York around data transparency, pushing legislation in California, Connecticut, Washington around low level stops, working with law enforcement agencies to really take deep dives and have a better understanding of what their community members are actually enduring, and then putting out a lot of policy stances and white paper briefs that really articulate what redesign can look like. I think people call for what they know, and what they know is law enforcement because that's what they've been given. So really broadening um, the capacity and capabilities of, what is actually out there, what can we do that makes everybody safer, both law enforcement and community members, but especially removing the harm that is done when we have an over reliance on law enforcement, um, punitive and punishment systems.
Now, this is a nationwide issue. Are there any challenges when addressing something that is on a much bigger scale? So we're not just talking, New York or another state. This is happening nationwide. What are some challenges that come with that? And alternatively, could it be easier if it's nationwide? That means just because that means everybody is kind of focusing on the issue. Can you give us a little bit of insight and kind of, what your experience has been addressing that?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question. The complexity and challenge nationwide is that you're dealing, you're operating on a federal level, and what we've seen, folks are social media savvy and watching the news and so forth. There's not a lot of change that's happening on that level, as when compared to local level change. So local level is extremely important. And as we're working in a national capacity, diving into localities, municipalities, cities, so forth, to really change legislation in those spaces. We've been extremely helpful and beneficial to help stand up, whether that's proposals from different city council members, senators, mayors, supporting individuals in all of those platforms, um, with the policies that they should be calling for, um, and really giving people the backbone to be bold and radical in change and redesign. So I think the challenge is getting to federal policy because federal policy does set both the floor and the ceiling, but the in between happens at the local level. And right now, there's a great deal of change happening at the local level.
Now, I want to move on to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. This was a significant piece of legislation that CPE supported. Can you discuss the impact of this act and the role CPE played in its development?
Well, again, I think it's extremely powerful and important for the Center for Policing and Equity to show up in these spaces as genuine experts, and not only genuine experts from an academics or um, policing angle, but a genuine expertise that this is a black led, black founded, and black leadership across this organization. So our lived experience, our heartfelt experience, coupled with data, coupled with science, we're one of the few organizations with this skill set, this capacity, this amount of diversity, which bridges the gap from abolitionists to academics to former police chiefs, all in one space, driving what policies could look like, what policies should look like. So we have expertise across just a number of domains. And for us, we're really pouring into data transparency, calling for bans on what we know cause harm, um, actions that cause harm, rather. All of these things that we're pouring our heart, soul, mind, and spirit into, to really create change, and stimulate what possibilities can be, what the future can look like if we stop this heavy presence and over reliance on law enforcement.
Now, can you talk about the importance of addressing racism as a public health issue?
Yeah, I think as a public health issue, if we look at things through an ecological model lens, then we start to see that we can't focus in on just one aspect when we're talking about white supremacy or racism. We have to look at the entire ecosystem and really dive into how we're undoing these legacies, these harmful legacies on the individual level, the institutional level, cultural level, political level, really engaging simultaneously in all of these issue areas so that we could really unpack, create change, and codify what change looks like. Oftentimes, we'll see a good police chief, and people will point to that good police chief, or we'll see a certain politician. But those people come and go, and they leave. But how do we create systems that are sustainable, that last, and really serve people with real intention? And for me, it's extremely important for us to be the creators and designers of our future, us being Black people.
And that's a really great point. I'm so glad that you mentioned that although there may be amazing people within these oppressive systems, they're not going to be there forever and the system will still remain. So I think that's an amazing point that you brought up. Thank you for that. Now, community engagement is a critical part of CPE's work. How does CPE ensure that the voices of Black and Brown communities are amplified and incorporated into its initiatives?
Yeah, so beyond voice, community agency has to be lifted up. So we don't show up in a paternalistic fashion and say, this is what must happen, this is what you should do. We show up with a great deal of humility, and we want to listen, we want to understand, and we want to invest in the champions, the experts, and the expertise that's on the ground. We understand that the brilliance is in the lived experience. For us, it's how do we listen, how do we unpack what we're hearing, and build tools that actually support people. We give those tools back to people, tools that could be, let's say, policy stances that will then support legislation, support community empowerment, coalition building, tools that may give toolkits as to what they could be calling for in different spaces at community boards or council hearings and meetings and so forth. I mean, ultimately, the general public is left unequipped to go into many spaces, and what we want to do is make sure that they have the right tools for advocacy, the right education, and an asset and a resource and an ally within our organization.
Can you tell me more about the Community Up program and its impact on grassroots public safety efforts?
Yeah, so Community Up is amazing. Oftentimes, the organization would show up under or from a law enforcement call. Law enforcement agencies seeking to partner with us, and one of the major things I wanted to do when I got here was shift that framing. And we have brilliant leaders on our community engagement team. So many, I don't want to name them. I'll get in trouble if I do that and miss somebody. But just brilliant individuals that are showing up to support community members on their initiatives, and how communities want to build public safety from a public health lens that are community led and driven, but oftentimes need the support, the infrastructure, and the legitimacy in the science that exists that supports and backs that.
Now, how does CPE collaborate with law enforcement agencies to implement policy recommendations?
Yeah, so it's really difficult to um, the policy space and law enforcement together is huge, but it's a very difficult space to generate um, the type of policies that we want to see right here, right now. So a lot of the work with law enforcement agencies is around harm reduction, knowing that where our intent is to shrink the footprint of the law enforcement agency, but we can't do that overnight. So the policies and the practices, procedures that we're moving are more so ones that aim to put us on a trajectory that lessens where law enforcement is needed and how law enforcement is used. And I'll go back to what I first opened up around mental health and traffic and all of these other areas. We shouldn't be policed because of poverty. We should be undoing what is causing poverty. We shouldn't be policed because of homelessness. We should be focused on securing homes for unhoused people. So, what seems very logical, law enforcement has been the tool that's used to uh, solve many complex issues that are have been purposely government sponsored, man made issues in the Black community.
Now, can you tell me about the Unlocking Democracy program?
Yeah, so unlocking democracy is amazing. This is like a centralized hub that brings local level elected officials, community members, directors of CBOs all together in one space. And ideally, this is how do we generate and cultivate new ideas? How do we bring expertise in certain areas of work, let's say violence interruption? How do we help communities actually learn that they themselves play the biggest role in public safety and that they could stand up and implement these types of programs and approaches? And then how do we give legislators the tools necessary to actually legislate and fund these types of activities? So, it's extremely beneficial and a critical component to empowering community members to be at the forefront of driving what public safety is and equipping elected leaders with the tools and the supports to actually be bold in the space.
What can people listening or people who will, eventually see this do now to support your efforts?
Donate. No, what I would say is to be active. I think we have to be active, and activism looks different for many people and shows up in many spaces. But for us to be active in all of these spaces and understand that we're on a journey, this is a continuum. We may not see the fruits of our labor in our lifetime, but we are definitely setting the foundation for the future of Black and Brown people, and we have to be active in that. We can't be passive.
Eric, I want to thank you so much for, having this discussion. It's a really important one, and I think that we are now in a time where we are a little bit more open to having the discussion, but so much more work is needed, to kind of achieve that goal. Can you quickly just let me know what's your vision for the future of public safety in the United States?
Uh, a, a, a diminished look of law enforcement and punitive justice systems, and over reliance on upstream root cause issues invested by public health solutions and steeped in public health frameworks, so that we have healthy people, healthy communities, and healthy institutions, and therefore we'll see healthier outcomes.
That was amazing. Once again, thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation.
Thank you all. I appreciate you. Keep doing the dope work.
Thank you. We have to
All
take a
right.
quick break. We'll be back right after this.
I remember when the Bronx did not really have a media outlet properly representing the people of the Bronx.
BronxNet provides for the community by being a community where people can be empowered to share their voices.
We are in a really great place technologically. We've got all the resources that we need to be effective.
Whether it's through cameras, storytelling, editing, we have provided those services for 30 years.
BronxNet's mission is to be a voice for the community.
To educate, to inform, and to inspire.
And you can be a part of it. We've built studios for you.
Welcome back. The New York State Assembly has concluded its 2024 legislative session amidst a pressing issue, the state's jail oversight. Despite intense advocacy and community efforts, the Assembly adjourned without passing crucial legislation aimed at addressing the ongoing crises within local jails, notably the notorious Rikers Island jail complex. Here now is the lead organizer of Katal's Center for Equity, Health, and Justice, Melanine Dominguez. Melanie, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Now, can you start by giving us a brief overview of your organization and the work that you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Melanine Dominguez. I am the organizing director here at the Katal Center for Equity, Health, and Justice. And we are a community organization based in Brooklyn, and we do work around ending mass criminalization, mass incarceration, and ending the war on drugs in New York State. And we do this all while building the leadership and organizing capacity of neighborhood residents. And just to dive a little bit more into like what we've been working on right now in New York City, we are one of the groups fighting to shut down Rikers. And as many of you may know, since Mayor Eric Adams took office, at least 31 people have died in city jails, and violence at Rikers is out of control. The mayor has said that he'll close Rikers, but while he's been in office, he's done everything to keep Rikers open, actually. And he's failed to meet almost all of the closure plans and legal deadlines that were set by the city council in 2019. And for instance, the plan requires transferring ownership of land on Rikers Island from the Department of Corrections to the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, but the mayor has neglected to do so. And additionally, a really critical component of shutting down Rikers is reducing the jail population to below 3,300. But because of the mayor's jail first approach to public safety, the jail population has actually increased under his term and is well over 6,300 right now. And that is precisely why, because of the crisis unfolding on Rikers and the mayor's lack of commitment to shutting it down, we have been working on different ways to hold the administration accountable to shutting down Rikers. And so since the fall of 2022, we have been calling on the federal courts to appoint an independent receiver to take control of Rikers Island to improve the conditions. And additionally, during this legislative session, we were pushing for the legislature to pass a reform that would bolster the State Commission of Correction. This is known as Senate Bill S5877, and it's sponsored by Senator Julia Salazar. And in the Assembly, it is known as Bill number 85709, sponsored by Assembly Member Emily Gallagher. And just to kind of give more context, the State Commission of Correction actually has constitutional authority as an independent state body to mandate and ensure that correctional facilities across the state, which includes both state prisons and local jails, are a safe, stable, and inhumane conditions. The SCOC has a wide-ranging powers to hold the correctional facilities in compliance. And this includes conducting inspections, obtaining information from correctional staff, examining correctional department documentation and medical records. And they can also issue subpoenas. And so, and one big component as well is that they have the power to shut down facilities that are found to not be protecting the constitutional rights of those being detained in city jails and local jails and state prisons. And for example, in 2018, the SCOC actually released a report about the worst jails in the state, and Rikers was at the top of the list, with severe leadership failures and a host of regulatory violations and seriously unsafe conditions for people that are detained at Rikers and staff.
I'm so sorry. I want to kind of highlight Rikers for a minute because I understand this has been so many people, have had concerns about this institution. Can you just elaborate on the specific issues jails like Rikers are facing and what the people there are actually going through?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that right now is happening on Rikers Island is that a huge majority of the people that are being detained at Rikers have a mental illness. And many members at Katal who have a loved one that has been incarcerated at Rikers, or they themselves have been incarcerated, continue to tell us that their medical needs are not being met. And so if you have a mental illness at Rikers, there isn't proper and meaningful care for that specific mental illness. And we've also gotten reports from our members that the hygienic conditions are horrific. They don't have access to clean bathrooms. They don't have access to clean clothes. And we've also had members who have experienced brutality at the hands of correctional officers, where one of our members actually testified at the most recent city council hearing around mental health and an oversight hearing of the Department of Corrections budget, where she stated that her loved one, her son, was beaten by a correctional officer for simply asking for medical help because they were not feeling well. And so these are the things that continue to happen inside Rikers Island. And like I said, violence is out of control. People are simply dying. And so everybody that's being detained at Rikers is at risk of losing their lives. And it goes both ways. It's not safe for the people being detained and for the staff. And so that is precisely why, like, we've been pushing for the mayor to shut down Rikers. But until that happens, we need to make sure that people are not dying and that people are in humane conditions. And so that is why we were pushing for the state bill to increase oversight of Rikers Island. And sadly, this state bill did not make it out of this legislative session. The New York State was able to pass the bill late last week, but the Assembly, even though the bill moved out of numerous committees, the clock ran out and they were unable to vote on this bill at the Assembly floor. And so we're going to continue to push for the legislature to pass this much needed reform, either in a special session this summer or at the next legislative session. However, because the conditions are so dire at Rikers Island, we have no time to waste. And that is why we want to continue to keep the pressure up at the city council level to pass Resolution 183, which is calling on the federal courts to appoint an independent receiver to take control of Rikers Island, to improve conditions and to save lives. And so for anybody that is tuning in on this call, we ask that you please reach out to your city council representatives to pass this resolution. And we also ask that you sign a petition online to tell the mayor that he needs to shut down Rikers. And you can find this at shutrikers.org.
Now, what has been the response from the community following the Assembly's failure to pass the bill? And this is for, just community members, advocates. What have people been saying in response to that?
Yeah, everybody is extremely heartbroken because we actually, in the last 2 weeks of the legislative session, we went up with our members and we had lobby days so that they can meet with their elected officials, and we were doing legislative drop-ins. And when our members found out about the bill not moving, they were completely heartbroken because some of our members have loved ones that are currently being detained at Rikers Island, and they fear for their lives. There's a lot of mothers that are deeply concerned, parents that are concerned about their kids being the next person in line to die within the Department of Corrections in New York City. And so, everybody's feeling the desperation because of how dire the conditions are. And right now, like I said, we don't have any time to waste. We cannot have more people dying, and we need to shut down this facility immediately, this jail complex.
Now, given the setback, what are Katal's next steps to ensure that the issues in New York's jails are addressed?
Absolutely. And so, like I mentioned, we're going to focus on making sure that the city council passes Resolution 183. And we're going to be doing Shut Rikers phone zaps, where we're going to be hosting folks so that we can call and put pressure on the city council to get more co-sponsors for this resolution. And another really important date that everybody should be on the lookout for is the next status conference hearing that the federal courts are holding around the case for receivership, which is on July 9th. It's a Tuesday. We're going to be out there holding a rally to keep the pressure up. And so we ask that folks join us as well. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to us. My number is 516-588-0127. So folks can give me a call or text me, and we'll loop you into this work, because it's going to really, really take all of us to hold this administration accountable and keep the pressure up to make sure that Rikers Island is shut down.
Now, I think another core part of this work is education and educating people on what's actually happening, because for a very long time, many people just figured, oh, if people are in jail, they did something to be there, and just kind of, just ignore the issue at hand. Can you just talk about the importance of educating the community on the horrors and the realities that are happening at places like Rikers?
Absolutely. It's really, really crucial. We've actually at Katal been doing canvassing sessions for the past 2 years where we're going into different neighborhoods in the community to have these conversations about what is actually happening at Rikers Island. And, a lot of the individuals that are being held at Rikers are being held pre-trial. They haven't been convicted of anything, but are simply waiting for their day in court to see where things are going. But in the meantime, they're being exposed to these horrific conditions that no human being should be exposed to, no matter what. And so, yeah, it's really, really crucial to make sure that the community is aware of what is going on, but also understand the meaningful ways in which that they can plug in to join the fight. And so, it's one of those things like it's just a stain in our society that we have a jail complex like Rikers Island where it's in complete violation of human rights. And we really need to make sure that we are aware of what is going on, that we ask the right questions and just really, really take the time to be considerate for a fellow human being's lives.
And with that, I understand that there are some people, again, education is so important, but there are some people who may be on the opposing side who probably just don't feel as connected to this fight. What do you say to those people who, maybe think that, some of these people going to jail deserve to be there, or that, it's not their place to kind of step in if this is what the law has in place? What do you say to people who believe that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We come across folks on that spectrum as well all the time. And one of the things that we make sure that they understand is that we are currently living in a community in New York City where we have a mayor that is not prioritizing the care of our communities. And so when we talk about shutting down Rikers, we also need to talk about investing in real public safety, making sure that community needs are being met. And this looks like investing in housing, healthcare, education, and jobs. And whoever you have a conversation with, they're concerned about affordable housing. They're concerned about paying the bills. They're concerned about bringing food at the table. They're concerned about folks that they're seeing in New York City who have a mental illness, who are experiencing homelessness. And so all of these things are so deeply connected because if we have a mayor in a city that prioritizes taking care of our communities, then we wouldn't be dependent on the carceral system in the first place. Carceral system is just a bandage to the social problems that actually exist in our societies. And so we need to make sure that our communities are being taken care of. And that's just not happening. And so, if you're on that side, like you have something at stake here. It costs $500,000 to incarcerate one person for per year at Rikers Island. And when alternatives to incarceration is much cheaper, when making sure that people's needs are being met is much, much cheaper. But it's just a matter of like where our mayor's priorities are. And we really need to make sure that we're all pushing him to make sure that he's investing in things that we so desperately need in our communities across New York City. And so that's what I would say.
Now, how does the situation in New York compare to jail oversight and reform efforts in other states?
Yeah, so actually, Rikers Island, like I mentioned earlier, in 2018, the State Commission of Corrections released a report where they marked Rikers to be the worst jail in New York State, and that has stayed the same until now. And so Rikers Island is among one of the worst jails in New York State, and so this is a big, big thing as well because everybody in New York State has to be considerate and prioritize the shutting down of this facility because it's going to have a trickling effect on the other local jails across the state that also are failing to keep people safe that are being detained in those jails. And we have jails across Buffalo, like you name it, Erie County. All of these are places in which people are experiencing inhumane conditions as well. And so we want to start somewhere and like have that be the benchmark for what comes next.
Now, are there any specific lawmakers or organizations, groups that you're working with to reintroduce and push this bill forward?
So as of right now, we've been organizing with our members, but we have a sign-on list that of about 10 to 20 groups that have signed on in support of this bill, whereas the resolution, we have close to 50 groups that have signed on in support, asking for the federal courts to appoint an independent receiver. And much of the groups that have come out in support have been the Bronx Defender, have been Vera Institute, a lot of these big hard hitters. And I'd be happy to share that list so that y'all can circulate it if possible.
Now, I definitely want to highlight that this has been a long-standing issue for our city, as you mentioned. Why do you think this is a challenge that we are struggling to overcome?
That's right. And I'm sorry, but the internet kind of went out, so I don't know if you asked me a question.
Oh, okay. I can repeat that. So this has been a long-standing issue for our community, especially here in the city, as you mentioned. Why do you think that this has been, such a challenge for our city to overcome?
Yeah, that's a real big question. I think that's really what has fueled at Katal our work around making sure that we are organizing. We need to make sure that our communities are strong because we win when we're strong. And so that, I mentioned for the past 2 years, we've been door knocking, we've been tabling, we've been doing outreach in all of the boroughs across New York City to build a strong community that can hold this administration accountable. And so that it really just comes down to community organizing and building people power. And so sustaining that is really going to make sure that we can keep the administration accountable no matter who is in office and keep that going, right? And so that has been a huge focus for us right now, just building a strong community.
Well, Melanie, I want to thank you so much for joining us and educating our community.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you for taking the time to listen to what we've been working on. It's a really, really important issue. And like I said, it's going to take all of us. So thank you.
Thank you. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
Happy anniversary to BronxNet, 30 years. Wow, brings back so many memories. This exact studio that I'm in right now, I broadcast out of here. This must have been around 2003. I mean, time flies by so quickly. I started out here, it was either Mr. Gary Axelbank and Mr. Batch with Lady Morsar. We used to do a show here called In the Neighborhood. And I brought so many different guests on this show. To be able to bring your voice to the community is very powerful. To bring hip hop and spirituality, I brought my pastor in this same studio, Pastor Gino Jennings, and I'm sure you guys know who Pastor Gino Jennings is. That's rough. And some disciplined teaching. BronxNet is something that we need to uplift our communities, because this is a platform that we can come, and if you have a vision that's in your mind going into your heart, you can use it to do uplifting things for your community.
Welcome back. Top of the Hill Classic isn't just about basketball. It's a vehicle for change, a platform for empowerment, and a beacon of hope for marginalized communities. In a world where access to resources and opportunities is not always equitable, TOH Classic stands out as a force for leveling the playing field. Here now is the founder of Top of the Hill, Dayvon Jones. Dayvon, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about Top of the Hill Classic and its primary goals?
Top of the Hill Classic, we're a basketball tournament. We started in the Bronx, in the Soundview section of the Bronx. Our goal is just to give our kids entertainment in the area. So our goal is to give kids opportunity to showcase their talent under the lights. Give the middle school kids a platform for them to play as well, for parents and community members to see, and also employ some of our people with summer youth jobs, and however that may look, however we can help the community and just give back and keep the violence down in our community.
Now, how does the program foster skill development, teamwork, and sportsmanship among young individuals?
So we do clinics on the weekends. And that helps with the skill work, team development. You know, they come out there, they play as a team. We're on Monday through Friday. There's a different team playing every night. They come together and, you know, try to win, compete.
Now, what has been the impact, you know, on the local community, and, you know, what has been the response from people in the neighborhood?
The impact is big. The impact's been real big. The community love it. They look forward to it. The whole Bronx looks forward to it. And the responses that I got, you know, just keep going. It's a major thing, especially coming out of that area of the Bronx.
Now, what inspired, you know, the creation of Top of the Hill?
What inspired me, it was just the entertainment that I could bring to my own community. And like I go to these other programs and I watch what goes on there, and I feel like I could do this at home. And it just inspired me to do that and to keep the violence down, because there's nothing else to do in our community. So it's something to do in the summertime. That's something we look forward to.
And I definitely want to talk about, you know, you said it's like a form of entertainment. It's also a way to be active in these communities, because, you know, in communities like the Bronx, we struggle with, you know, being healthy, staying more active. Can you talk about the importance of having this safe outlet for children to be a part of?
It's very important, especially like from what I've seen, there was no activity in our community. So the activity, it brings activity for the youth to play. It brings activity for the adults, the seniors to watch and just compete. And it's just very important to have that activity in the neighborhood.
Now, I understand that there is going to be a celebration for Juneteenth. Can you tell me a little bit more about that upcoming event?
Oh, yeah. So Juneteenth, we're going to have a one-day event. So normally our tournament, it's a big spotlight for the high school kids. So on Juneteenth, we're going to highlight our younger youth, 11 and under. We're going to have a couple guests. We're also going to have activities for our seniors, because we don't just want to entertain the youth. We want to entertain everybody. So we're going to have activity for the seniors with yoga. We're going to have a game truck for our youth. We're going to have a bouncy truck for the younger youth that don't play sports. We'll have a bouncy house, pardon me. And it's going to be a lot of fun and activity. We're going to have a live DJ all day, and I look forward to it.
I think what's amazing about this is that it's multi-generational, and it really does bring all aspects of the community together. Can you talk about how it kind of just upholds the idea of unity within the community?
It upholds the unity through sports. So that was just a way of bringing the community together through sports. Everybody loves a sport. So we chose basketball. Like I said, it gives the parents something to do, to watch their kids. You know, they probably working all day, don't get the opportunity to go to these other tournaments. We have something Monday through Friday. They can come after work, watch a kid, and it just brings everybody together as a whole. The whole community looks forward to it.
And I also want to talk about, since it's going to be, you know, as I mentioned, you know, during Juneteenth, can you talk about the importance of having it on a day where, you know, people in the community could celebrate cultural pride?
It's very important, because Juneteenth, that's new to us as a federal holiday. So it's just very important for us to highlight it and bring everybody together and just celebrate this day and keep the peace, keep the violence down, bring the youth out, bring the seniors out. It's very important to have this holiday.
Now, what are your plans for the future of Top of the Hill?
Oh, our plans for the future on Top of the Hill, we want to be more than just known as a tournament. So we want to introduce our programming, which is we just recently started, and we're looking forward to bring our programming to schools, community centers, and other outlets.
Now, can you talk about how, you know, in the topic of expanding, how there may be something for a girls' league? I understand. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and just kind of expanding nationwide?
Oh, a girls' league is something that we really, really want to do. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do it yet. We're on year 6. We missed a year due to the pandemic. We're on year 6. And we're hoping to expand to a girls' league. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get the funding for it. So we are looking for any type of help from community members because, we want to shine light on our girls too. And especially what's going on in the WNBA right now. The girls' league is becoming a big thing. And, our next WNBA star is probably right here in the Bronx. And we need to give them that platform to show it.
Right, I think that's so amazing. And as you mentioned, there's been so much support and love and just so many female athletes being highlighted. And I think it would be amazing if we could find one that, comes from the Bronx. Can you just talk about the importance of having girls kind of, also have a place in sports where they can grow and kind of learn about the same skills like just sportsmanship, teamwork, and stuff like that?
It's very important. And, I see a lot of girls' leagues around. I do see them around. But I don't feel like there's no magnifying glass on it. So I do want to be that. I want to be that person to bring the spotlight to the girls' league in the Bronx and give them an opportunity to play under the lights. The lights, that's a big game, nighttime game. We do want to bring that opportunity to our girls because there's a lot of talent out here and you just never know. We just have to go out and find it and lead these girls in the right direction.
I would love to see that. So fingers crossed, I hope to see that come to the organization. I also want to kind of talk about just collaboration. Can you tell us about how TOH collaborates with experienced coaches, referees, mentors, and local organizations?
Yeah, so we do collaborate with a lot of people. We collaborate with good coaches. We collaborate with our local organizations. I can name a few. Truth Juice, that they're a big supporter of us. Jacoby Send Up to Valence, they also a big supporter of TOH. And
now I want to talk about, with that, being said, how important is the role of mentorship and coaching in the success of TOH participants?
So mentorship is very important, and that's also a big thing on TOH. I was saying is where basketball meets mentoring. The mentoring piece is a very big aspect of what we do. And it kind of, when we did come up with the tournament, the goal was to have something that separates us from others. So the mentorship piece is very important to us, and that's what we hope that will separate us from others, to be looked at as just a basketball tournament. We want to be more than that.
And can you talk about a little bit about your own background and how mentorship, has possibly put you on the path that you're on now?
My background, I come from the Bronx right here. I come from Soundview houses. The mentorship out there, growing up, it wasn't heavy as what I see now, these mentorship programs that is out there in the community, and I see like the change that it is doing. So it's very important to get that mentorship out there, and I wish I had it when I was younger, but fortunately, I'm here to give back and give it to somebody who don't have it.
That's amazing. Do you have any success stories of maybe, any kids that you've probably worked with in the past or currently that you've seen how this mentorship has put them on the right path?
I have plenty of success stories. Kids that come on top of the hill, they get looks. You never know who's watching, and we bring that highlight to these other eyes that's unable to see this talent. And we have plenty of kids that went to Division I college, and who just recently participated in this year's March Madness. Those are a lot of our alumni kids, and it feels good to see these kids do these things.
Oh, that's amazing. I love to hear that. Now, I'm curious to know, how do the families feel when they see that their kids are a part of something so amazing and that, there's, something at the end of this for them? So it's not just only going to impact them as a child, but, when they moved on. Can you talk a little bit more about how the response has been from the families?
The families love it. I always get great feedback. Sometimes, and relationships is also built there. So Kids Bay Boys and Girls Club, Riverside, there's other programs that's there, coaches, and that relationship is born right there on top of the hill. They might see a kid playing with somebody and who is that kid? And then the family's right there, we make the introduction. It's very important, the family relationships.
Now, I definitely want to highlight something you mentioned earlier, in that there's opportunities for employment through SYEP. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
That is an amazing part of Top of the Hill. So we're able to give employment. This year we have 24 some youth slots, and I think that's major. Be able to give our young people an employment, and it's more than just employment. We also want to make sure they walk away with a skill, rather a skill of scorekeeping, live streaming, video recording, photography. We just try to help these young people as much as possible. So our summer youth program, we have kids working with our operational staff, and it just opens the door for them for whatever they want to do in their career if it's not playing sports. So that's why I just love what we do.
I think that's so amazing because people may love basketball, but maybe they don't want to play, but they still want to be a part of that community. Can you talk about the importance of showing children and, you know, just young people that there's more opportunities within a field that they love?
There's way more opportunities in the field that you guys love. Basketball is just something that I love, and I use my love for basketball to show other people opportunities of what they can do. You don't have to necessarily play the game. Like I said, you can learn something from the game, whether it's scorekeeping, computer skills, DJing, MC. It's so many opportunities. Just find what you love, circle in on, and be able to spread that love with everybody else.
Now, what are the eligibility requirements to join the program?
We ask that all kids are in school. So we ask that all kids are in high school or middle school or younger. We ask that we get no college experience players, so we want to be fair. And just be of age. We cap at 19 and just be of age. That is a requirement to play.
That's amazing. And I think that I love that, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no, like, they have to be in school, but there's not like a grade thing. Because I know for some sports, they have to make a certain GPA to play. Do you guys have that there as well?
No, we don't have no GPA. We open to all because there's some kids who are ineligible throughout the winter seasons at their school. Mm-hmm. We're not going to punish you here. It's open to the public. We're here for the community. And, you know, somebody might see you that wasn't able to see you because your grades was bad and give you that extra help that you need to get your grades going.
That's amazing. And it just opens so many doors for opportunity, because I know for a lot of people that could be, you know, something that could stop that experience. Now, can you tell me a little bit more about, you know, what do you hope to see for the future of the organization long term, maybe 15, 20 years from now?
15, 20 years from now, I hope that we have mentoring program in a lot of schools. I hope that we're able to bring winter tournaments to school. And of course, I want to see what we're doing now in Soundview houses, SAC 1 houses. I want to see what we're doing now as big as it could be. But 15 years from now, the goal is to have mentoring program in schools, winter basketball league, skill clinics on weekends, and most importantly, that girls league that we mentioned.
Now, why are sportsmanship and teamwork emphasized in TOH, and how are these values instilled in the participants?
Sportsmanship and teamwork, it's emphasized. It's very important. You know, it's something that you take off the court as well. And you build relationship. You might meet your brother on top of the hill, different mother. It's very important, and we emphasize it, and we stress it that you guys just all stay together, pray together.
Now, how do you deal with, you know, it's a competition, which means somebody will win and somebody, you know, is unfortunately going to lose. How do you deal with, you know, teaching young people that it's kind of the journey and it could also be a part of a learning experience?
So that's actually how I grew up learning, you know, playing ball. I played against some of the best players coming out of the Bronx at my time. And even if we wasn't ready, it is a learning experience. You get that experience to play against these guys that's going on to Division I colleges. And you know, you might actually get your name off of one of these guys. So it's also an opportunity. But like I said, we are a big spotlight for high school basketball right now. Like if you somebody in New York City, you must come on top of the hill and play. And somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. But
right. That's just the game, right?
That's just the game.
Now, you know, what advice would you have to somebody, because, you know, we have a lot of people who may love sports or, you know, feel that they can't do it or, you know, may not have the confidence to kind of take on something like that. What advice would you give to that young person who has that interest but may be a little bit nervous or not as confident to actually go and, you know, join an organization like this?
If you want to do it, I say go for it. Don't let nobody tell you different. Top of the Hill, we started in 2019, but this is something I've been trying to do since 2014. If somebody shoots you down, just keep trying. go through all the proper channels that you can. If it's something, if your heart is in it, don't let nobody tell you can't do it, because you can do it.
Right.
And that's my advice. Like, just stay consistent, you know, set your goals, do the things you got to do to accomplish them, and take it step by step.
And with that being said, you know, to kind of survive through COVID is kind of an amazing, you know, achievement. Do you have any just advice on, you know, things like that, or just, you know, what were some of the challenges that you have to face to still make it out and be where you are today?
COVID was a very unfortunate thing, but it actually, you know, the work speaks for itself. So it actually was able to show the impact that we have on our community. If you look at the number from the NYPD, the violence was up, robberies, murders, everything was up in the community of the pandemic year. And unfortunately, I went to a funeral during COVID, and the first thing that was said to me when I arrived to that funeral, the NYPD captain told me, we wouldn't be here right now if we had the tournament. So that was one of the major things that stuck out for me while doing this work. And it just showed me like what we're doing and how important and good it is.
Wow, that's amazing. And how does it feel to be recognized, you know, by leaders in the community, people who, you know, just do work in the community? How does it feel to know that they recognize, you know, what you're doing?
It feels good to be recognized, but the work is not finished. You know, that's what I tell them, man. I don't want to get my head too big. I just want to continue to do the work and be as best as we could be.
Now, how can people learn more about the organization or join if they're interested?
Oh, you can learn more at our website, tohclassic.org. Our Instagram, TOH_TOH Classics, that's 3 C's at the end, and our Twitter as well, TOH Basketball. You can learn more. We updated weekly. Our website is updated weekly. Our Instagram is updated daily. You can learn more about our upcoming events, programming, and like I said, if you guys want to get that Girls League, please visit our website and let's get it going.
Yes, we need to get that Girls League. Well, you know, I want to thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation, and congratulations again on your success and the work that you're doing to support the youth, you know, in our community. I think it's so important. I love to see it, and we definitely need more, because that can inspire the next generation of people to, you know, kind of do what needs to be done to support the community. So again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for your time and opportunity.
We've come to the end of our show today. We hope you enjoyed this week's discussion on the Bronx Social Justice Forums. To rewatch this week's edition, you can catch the Recable cast right here on BronxNet's channels. If you want to join the conversation and present your point of view, you can visit our social media at BronxNet TV. Join us next week as we continue to elevate the discussion and bring further awareness across the globe. I'm your host, Kibin. Take care.